Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back. A to Z haircutting again. We didn't get to show you how to shorten this. We did our other clipper and shear undercomb on our last haircut. And let me kind of show you that real quick. And you can see how it's much smoother, much smoother. I'm going to put it back against the whiteboard with the clipper, because the clipper, one, when you have your shear, you're taking sections. So when you have your shear, you're still going to create that. It's going to be a good hard line, but not near as a hard line as you do with the clipper. The clipper is going to fit right. I mean, every little blade is going to be cutting exact. We're not cutting exact with the shear. That's why there's your why on why it's a little softer. And you can see it. You can see it in the back, where you can kind of see it, where it's just slightly rounded there, where this is definitely a flat line. So again, it just depends on what you want. What result do you want from this? Is it wrong? No. And you're going to get the same result even whether the hair is wet or dry with the shear. Remember, we never shouldn't use clippers on wet hair. It's not good for them. It's going to dull your blade. You'll be replacing your blade. So what we're going to do, just real quick, because we've kind of, I keep giving you the terms and I keep telling you go back to introduction, watch the introduction tape. It is so important to know where you're at on the head form. How do you know where to go? How do you know where to move it to if you don't know where you're at? I mean, we've got, there's many fancy terms out there, but many of them, many times are going to be here or there. You're going to find that when I teach, I'm a teacher, so I'm teaching students that, beginning students that have never gone through any of this. So that's why I give you so much detail, every little detail. When I hold it up, how do I hold my fingers? What direction are they pointing? There's no here or there, and there's no like that, like this or like that. Every once in a while you'll hear me say, you bring it up here, but then I recall that I'm saying that, so I'll try and let you know where I'm at on the head form, so we're both speaking the same language. So you remember how to do a head form, right? Question mark. That's how you start it, right? That's a question mark. If you know what a number 1 is and a number 2, there's your profile. 1, 2. It's the same thing. It's not different. The parietal line is the curve of the head. You have an upper ridge, you have a lower ridge. You have a flat part of the head. This is the temporal area. People are going to recognize it as the temporal area. But if you put your hands on it, put your hands on your own head, you can tell where the fingers bend for that to go round. It's flat. So let's talk about it. This is real. It's flat. In the back of the head, you're going to have your occipital area, but just down underneath the curve, you're going to have this area right here that's called behind the ear. I'm not going to write them all down. I'm going to quickly just go through it again. Behind the ear is very important, especially with really short hair, because of that cowlicks. So a guy wants a square neckline. If one side is growing up, the other side is going up into the center nape, and then the other side is growing down into the neck. You can't make it round, not without taking it real short. In other words, elevating it up into the neck a little more. And then you have the occipital area, you have the crown. Okay, within the crown, right at the center crown, in other words, right in the back here, there's your crown. You can put your hand on your crown and you can feel it. It's also flat. It's a perfect round, flat circle. On the mannequin, it's a little bit more rounded, but there's your crown. Here's your parietal line. Right in the middle of that is something called the vertex. You have to know where that's at, because that fits exactly right into that center nape. This is the nape area. How do you find the nape? Okay, my cameraman's trying to cough, so if you hear coughing in the background, you need some water? Okay. There you go. Anyways, so how do you find the nape? You put your finger here, just let it stroll back, it'll go back by itself. Place it here, I don't even have to look at it. It goes back by itself. I'm not moving it. It's a natural movement. You've got to know where the nape line is for a good crew cut. That's why it's called a crew cut. Some guys will come in, especially older gentlemen, also considered a businessman's haircut. Now this was a little heavy We got an idea on the pompadour for this. Sorry, got lost. So that's the vertex. At the just above the upper ridge is something called the apex. That's the highest part of the head right here. Just in front of that is the frontal area. So from the apex line, pie-shaped to the parietal line on each side is the frontal fringe or bang. Whenever you cut a bang, you never cut it straight across. In other words, you don't bring the hair all down, because what will happen is right along the parietal line, you're going to have some short pieces that are going to drive you nuts. That's why you pie shape it out from the vertex, from the end of the vertex forward. You have your perimeter line. The ear, you have something right here. This little nodule on your ear is called the tragus. So you have a little nodule right there, and we tell people, please don't put earrings there. We have a little thing that you do if you just go like this to your face. It's actually very relaxing. It's soothing, calming. A lot of nerves right there. You don't want to put an earring there to irritate those nerves. So perimeter line is the hairline. Interior is all of this. So I just quickly ran through it for you. I didn't write it down. So, you know, it's you knowing this as we speak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do what you see in the salon a lot. I'm going to take a number 2. I'm going to put it on my clipper. All right. I'm going to take that number 2 up to the lower ridge, because you know where the lower ridge is at. I've asked you to look. Look at guys with really short hair. You'll see that lower ridge. You'll see it fade up into it. The lower ridge is the beginning of the curve of the head. And then you have your parietal line, and then the upper ridge, which is the upper area curve of the head before you get to the apex. These are all common terms. Now you need to know them to totally understand and detail your haircuts. So what I'm going to do, you never come in like this with the clipper. If a fly is flying around, if he gets a twitchy nose and he's got a sneeze, my husband was just trying to cough, the head's going to move, and what's going to happen? Whose fault is it going to be? You always put your head up at the apex. You're going to start up. We're going to go up to the lower ridge only. Up to the lower ridge only. No higher. And I'm starting from the perimeter line. And as I go to the lower ridge, this is what I want you to see. This is what you need to practice. I'm doing this. I'm making a half circle out. That's called carving. So I'm carving that out. Again, hand up there, up to the lower ridge only. Like that, you can feel them when they move, and as the clipper starts complaining, just back off a little bit, but only to the lower ridge. Once I get up there, I want you to see how that slightly layers it. It automatically creates a layered line, because I've taken this, brought it up, and do you see that carve out? This carves out. I'm placing this, the blade flat on the comb. This is called the comb. Placing it flat on the comb. You can see that. And then as I take it up, I place it on the bed of the guard. That's what that's called, the comb and the bed. So as I take it up, I place it on the bed, and then I carve out. You don't take it straight up. You can. That's a whole different haircut, but is that teaching you anything? So teaching you how to carve out is essential. See, it's starting to complain. That's why I like my 76 Oster. It's a lot more expensive, but it works. Okay, so we are still at the lower ridge. I'm going to turn it around. We're going to work the other side. Remember, always side to center, so that you see where you're at. Again, turn her a little bit so you can see her. Starting at right there where the sideburns are at, take it up to the lower ridge. Take it up to the lower ridge. Now, do you see that this hair is combed up here? So it's not laying down like the other side was. Kind of held up a little bit. These mannequins are a little bit different. They're a little bit more difficult to work with as far as getting that look that you want. But one thing I want you to notice is once I get up here, I'm going to match my line because I know where the lower ridge is at. I'm not looking for it. And sometimes you have to back off, and you see me carving as I go. To the lower ridge, take it out. So like I said, when we get into the shorter cuts, you see that's the same on each side. When we get into the shorter cuts, you definitely need to know where you're at because there is absolutely no room whatsoever for error. There we go. So if you know exactly where that lower ridge is at, no matter where you're at, you're going to have your cut just right. Now you notice that I've got those few little long hairs right there that are trying to drive me crazy. This is where then I would take my comb. You're still in control. You still have control. I'm going to take my comb, pull it out a little bit. I don't want to take it all the way in there because I don't want it to be beyond a 2. In other words, the blade beyond a 2 into the going up into the lower ridge. I want it on the edge of the lower ridge. In other words, the lower ridge line. So I'm coming across it. I'm going to hold the comb this way. I want you to see that corner that I'm looking at. There it is. So I'm going to come back across and just get that corner. So there's no reason, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, I've got that little long piece right there. I'm going to go underneath it just because it's easier, and that's all I'm taking off. You notice I didn't go all the way up to the comb. I just took off what I needed. Now, here's a guide and here's a guide. See the corner? That's all I need to take off to clean that up. Alright, so now we're starting to go into more of a crew cut. And what we're going to do with this cut today, there's so many varieties of cuts with guys anymore. What we're going to do today, we're going to do a side part on this. So what I'm going to do before I wet it, because in a minute I'm going to do some scissor over comb on it. What I want to do is take this clipper slightly above, not too, slightly above the parietal line. Not to the end of the upper ridge, but only slightly above the parietal line. The parietal line is about ½ inch lower than that. So I'm only going to take it up to that area. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to comb this hair out of the way, and I'm doing this with a 2. So I'm going to create kind of like a fake heart. And I'm taking it to there and I'm carving away so that I don't cut that hair that I don't want to cut. So you see that that's slightly above the parietal line. And a lot of these cuts are very popular now where they do come up to that. Using a guard is great. And then sometimes what you have to do, come up right to that line. And I'm just going to take it up too, because at the area of the vertex is where you have your cowlicks. This is where you're going to have a problem when you do this cut. People are going to say, well, you know, why does it stick up? And this is where you have to use your texture shear to know how. This is the know-how on it. So you can see that I've taken it up. He's getting kind of a side part right there. I'm going to show you how to carve out that part in just a minute. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into like an actual V into the center of the crown. In other words, I have this line here. That's as far as I'm going to go. Do you see the vertex is right at the center crown up above the parietal line? So your cowlicks would be here. So we're still going to have length right there to work with. Length that's going to say we can cover up those cowlicks or redirect them. And this is part of not only cutting, but knowing how to cut. That's what I'm trying to teach you, is to learn how to cut. So I'm going to take this, elevate it up, and I'm going to follow that line into that, and I'm going to show it to you in just a minute. Okay, I want to show this to you. And do you see how that came? V'd out into it. All right? So we have that so that we can part it over and play against that, the cowlicks in this area that are going to be on a regular human head. Okay, so now I'm going to do some scissor over comb. There's a couple things I want to teach you with this. Some people like, let me find my water bottle. There it is. Some people like that corner here when they do their side part. I'm going to show you how to make that. And you can make that as long and as short as you want. Okay, I found my timer, but I forgot to turn it on. How are we doing, cameraman?
14 minutes left.
We have 13 minutes. Okay, we're okay. Okay, so see, we have a bunch of hair right here, don't we, right now? We have a whole lot of hair right there. So don't worry about that right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create the corner at the bang area. And how do you create it so that it's a perfect corner and it isn't going in and cutting a corner in there? The top of your head, basically, for architecture, is a square, surprisingly enough, slightly rectangular square. You have four corners, the corners of the parietal line, and then the corners at the parietal line in the back on both sides of the vertex. So those are areas that you want to look at. So you see how that hair is still just coming, trying to go straight down right there. We're going to take care of that in just a minute. But the first thing I want to show you is how to create that corner. And this is done scissor with the shear and shear over and your comb. You're going to take it from this corner. We want the corner on this side. So we're going to take this hair, we're going to part it corner to corner. Remember what I said? It's a rectangle. We're going to pick it straight up and we're going to bring it to the center apex. Now, if they have longer hair, you're going to bring it all the way over to that parietal line on the other side of the vertex. So what I'm going to do is I've got it at the center apex right there. Surprisingly enough, all I'm going to do is take this, hold it at an angle like this. But I'm doing it with my other hand. So I'm going to bring it, and I'm going to bring it to a point. You see that point? I'm going to then, let me turn it around so you can see what I'm doing. I'm bringing it right to that center apex, but at a diagonal. The parting is diagonal. I'm not cutting any of this hair right now at all. It's all brought over, and I'm going to put my comb in my pocket, which you should not do, but I'm just going to cut it across. I hope you can see that. And you're going to see that it creates a corner, surprisingly enough, when it comes back down. There you go. Let me turn it so I can see it. So do you see the corner that we've created right here? We traveled it all into this direction, and then what we did, brought it to the center and then cut it across, but we're at an angle to the other side of the head, and then you bring it back, part it, and the longer you have it, if they want a longer corner, you want to bring it over a little bit more. But you can see that that corner is going to rest right there. Now hang on a minute, we're not quite finished yet. So now what I'm going to do, and this is where scissor over comb becomes extreme. At the center, just here's your apex. Your apex ends right at this area. As soon as the comb leaves the head on the top, that's where the apex ends. So we're going to take that down into the crown. And what I'm going to do now, do you see this corner? I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to hold it at a slight diagonal, but you see short, short, you'll see it in your own mannequin, and I'm going to cut straight across. And now you're going to see that hair combing over, because what does short do? Moves longer. This, we need the movement from the length there, but you can see now it's no longer falling over. Okay, do we have a problem here with this corner? Same thing. We're just going to pick up the corner. Pick it up. There it is. And shorter is going to move longer. Now, this is where the tapering, remember on the sides where I showed you how to taper? This is where I'm taking the comb, the hair underneath is my guide. I'm going to then give it a shift. I'm shifting the comb over in this form. So in other words, now we're carving into it to blend it. That's the why I wanted you to practice that and learn it. So you can see that hair falling into it, and the hair on top right at the crown area, just slightly below the parietal line. Now this is the whole area right here. Your parietal line fits here, your lower ridge is here, your vertex is right there, and then that's your crown area. So that's all we're working right now. So I see that it still looks a little bit, there's some little scragglers hanging out, so all I'm doing, very gently picking it up, and this is how they polish. You have to learn to polish your cuts. And this is part of it. This is part of giving it that nice finish. All right? So now we're on this side, and we're going to move that corner out of the way. So now we have the parietal line and lower ridge. We're going to elevate this up to the parietal line only. And you're going to find that this hair right here at the center crown is going to be your guide. You've created a guide right there. So I'm going to pick this up, and there's my guide, and I'm going to travel around it. Remember how we traveled around for the zero? However, this time the comb is going to be held directly parallel or following the head form. All right? So I'm going to bring this down, pick it up, and you see the comb is flat. And because I'm doing it with a comb, now if I was doing this with a clipper, it'd be a much harder line. Okay, now I have a corner here because I've picked that up, and you'll see it right there. Now what's going to happen is you see your corner just a little bit more. So when they want that corner, now this was slightly layered, but when they want that corner right there, the longer the hair, the better it's going to be. And later on, we're going to show you with some other mannequins. Now, let's say that we want some volume on top of this. We're still not going to mess up our corner. We want our corner to be left alone. So that's not going to happen. That area at the parietal line on this side to the parietal line on that side, diagonally, is not going to be touched. So I'm going to pick this up, and because I want a little bit of volume, now let me cut it a little longer so I can show you what happens. So if I cut it side to side, if I pick it up and cut it side to side, it's going to lay down. See it? Watch it fall down. Just falls down. And it's all falling down. Okay. But if I cut it front to back, surprisingly enough, stays up. See, it's still staying up. It will stay up, stays up. So cutting it front to back, because this part of the head is the highest part, it's not so rounded. You actually have like a slightly, a slight curve instead of an extreme curve. It's going to hold it up. So now we have a little more movement, and we can part that hair over. Now another area another thing you can do with this is, let's say that you want to comb it back. Let's say that you want that hair to comb back. You want to have your part, but you want that hair to comb back. And you know we probably need some gel or something on this. And there you go. A lot of guys like that kind of look, and that is slightly pompadourish as well. Slightly pompadour look. Now, before we move forward, I've got 5 minutes? Okay. Before we move forward, I want to teach you how to carve in. Now, this is where, again, you're going to have to spend some money because you need to buy some trimmers. These are called the T-edge trimmer. What I like about the T-edge trimmer is they get around the ears really, really good. Now, when we cut our male mannequins, and we do have male mannequins that we're going to be cutting, but I want you to practice this first. That's why, I mean, buying more than one mannequin is going to be something you may have to do. So what you're going to do, this is called bracing. I would normally do it with my other hand because I'm right-handed, but I'm going to do this, and then you're just going to tap it. And you're just going to come around and you're going to create that part. It's a little harder with my left hand because I'm not a lefty, I'm a righty. So I've got an extreme part there. It would have been just a little bit thinner if I was doing it with my right hand. But just know you tap it. You don't try and carve it down, you tap it. And then you'll see your line come in, and it comes in pretty nice. So it's hard to do when you're trying to teach it. So now, here's the next adventure that you go with this haircut. You've got your corner. It's a cool little haircut that's done. You can see the corner there. If they want to comb that back, they can. If they just want to bring it all forward and have their corner, it's not an extreme corner. All right, if we want it shorter, we could take the sides a little bit shorter to show it a little bit more. And then for that, I would carve it out with my comb, and I'm not going to go shorter at the bottom. I'm only going shorter with the hair on top. So again, you see your corner just a little bit more. And like I said, with a little bit of gel. Now, here's another factor that you can use when you're doing this. Use your texture shear. What did we talk about the texture shear? Remember I said with shorter hair, there's so many extreme areas. There's no room for error. This is room for error. This is not. So that's why you have to be careful. So I'm going to use my texture shear to come up. And that's going to make that stay back. And the direction that I'm taking my texture shear, I want the hair, the comb to the texture shear. In other words, okay, so one thing that I wanted to show you as well, our battery went out, so I kind of have a little bit of a break in here, but I went ahead and drew this for you with the question mark and so on. But we just clippered with the number 2 up to the lower ridge. So when you do your diagrams, write this down. I know sometimes, especially with this little intricacies, what I usually tell my students, how can you write it down so you understand it? I know how to write it down so I understand it, but how do you write it down? So whatever it is that you need to write down, you can do it that way. Normally when they have their corner on the side too, they have the hair coming forward. So we have a little bit of a weightiness here at the lower ridge. You notice we're trying to stay away from the vertex. That's where, again, the cowlicks are at. They're just going to jack up this haircut for you. So we're just going to do our last few minutes. I'm just going to pick it up. 1, 2, 3, comb it. 1, 2, 3, comb it so that it goes forward. 1, 2, 3, comb it so that it all goes forward and directed in that direction. And you see that it'll do it for me. Now I've got a little bit of a corner right here. When you see a horizontal line, take your texture shear. If you're doing a shortcut like this and then you see that horizontal line, take your comb. You notice again, fingertips on the combs. Carve it out, and we're just going to clean that up with the texture shear, and you can see how that goes away. It gets rid of the corner, blends the cut, works. So learn how to use your tools to be successful. Learn how to use your tools so that your haircut works for you. What ends up happening when you learn how to use your tools, I have clients that come to me that if they went to anybody else, they'd have to have their hair cut really, really short because of the extreme growth patterns, of the forward growth patterns on the sides. And they're able to leave with their hair totally combed back without the hair sticking out, and that's because of this tool. The texture shear makes a big difference. So what I'm going to do here, you see that little thing pop up right there. I don't know whether you see it or not, but I'm going to pop it out for you. It's right there. So I'm going to take it again and just gently move with the comb as I do it. Now, if the hair was growing back on this side, and it does on certain clients, we'd have a problem. It would start sticking up just a little bit more when it's this short. You have to be careful about that. So what I'm going to do now, the teeth are going to point down. I'm going to move this hair out of the way. So right just slightly above the parietal line, I'm taking the shears and I'm bringing this down. I'm going to bring that down again, bring it forward, and now we've got a nice little choppy, layered look coming forward. All right, so you can see the part. They've got it over there. This is no gel. This is nothing on it. This is the cut doing it for you. I've got a little bit of a corner again right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm going to clean that up. We decided to extend this video just a little bit longer because we want you to get the information. Again, I'm cutting it so that it lays forward. And will it go back? Yeah, it'll go back. Shorter moves longer. That hair's shorter right there. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to chop in there and go forward with this side bang. Make it lay down a bit. It's driving me crazy. So even if you think that experienced people don't have problems, think again, because we do. And there we go. We've got that nice line in there. I'm going to chop this up, bring it forward, and then with a little bit of gel, all of that will lay down. I'm not going to put gel on it because then I have to shampoo it, and I really don't want to. All right, so it's a decent cut. It's a very popular cut. A lot of guys are getting this, especially young people, with that coming over on their natural part. The only thing is, that's how they have to wear it every day. There are no options. Now, can they wear it back? Yep. Can they still pompadour it? Oh, heck yeah. They can pompadour that because it's there for them. That corner creates that pompadour look for them. That corner brings it right up so they can just pop that in there and just, you know, comb it up into that. But even with the mannequins, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. Don't worry about it. Learn how to use your tools. Learn how to come against that. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, our next haircut, we're going to get into the flat top. You've learned about keeping the length. You've learned about doing it front to back, so we have volume. See how that hair stays up? And we still have just a scotch of a pompadour in there. And see, are they going to wear it down or are they going to wear it up? Doesn't matter. They have their corner. The corner comes down by itself. And there it is. This is a very small corner. We don't have like this huge thing coming up, but now you know how to do it. Take it back over to the other side, bring it to a point, and then cut it. Surprisingly enough, comes back, it forms a corner. All right? So if you have any questions or comments, please comment, ask questions. Understand that we will be speaking the language when we do it. We will, you know, if you're asking me, well, if we're working along the vertex and you have to hold it, what, at a 90 degree? Do you have your protractor? Do you know how to do that? So those are factors. Those are things that I've taught you within the class to get this. So good luck with it. Take care. God bless.